everybody. Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast. Welcome to all our YouTube live watchers and or listeners. Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast is brought to you by Tom and Phil Perry. Phil, how you doing, guy?
Doing great. Day 2 in the books. Another beautiful day out there in Foxborough, Massachusetts. And I thought an interesting practice in a lot of different ways, which I know we'll get to. That's what the people are here for.
It's a ramp-up practice. They're ramping up. Here are the things we're going to get to in this particular program. First, we're going to talk about the offensive line. Some interesting observations from our cameraman, Moose. Bill Messina. I totally forgot the kid's name. I've known him
wrong with
20
you?
plus years.
That was
I know him
wild.
as Moose, but I forgot it was Bill Messina. I thought Daryl Johnston was the first Moose that hit my head.
Are you having a stroke?
Secondarily, we're going to go through the wide receiver pecking order, which is starting to be established, which is, I'm going to be candid, looking like some bad news for my guy Efton Chisholm. Although it's just the pole position, he will fight up from down under. But first things first, let's talk about a little offensive line. Here's some sound from right tackle Morgan Moses. Morgan Moses.
But we're not going to down on the pass because it's a new year, man. We got an unbelievable talented room, and we're growing every day. And, we got some guys that played a lot of football in that room, and some guys, the young guys that are willing to learn and eager to learn. I think the change of the culture is the key, Football is the same as every sport, It's one in the trenches, When they count down to 4th and 1 and it's 2-minute drills and things like that, you count on the offensive line and the D-line to go out there and eat. And, the good thing about it is that we got a great offensive line and we got a great defensive line. So we challenge each other every day, and that's iron sharpen iron. So we look forward to the battle. Obviously it's our job to keep our star quarterback upright, and we're going to do those things. So
the optimism then that people are feeling because of the changes that have been made are well-founded.
No, yeah, 100%, man. It starts with the foundation, and it starts with the camaraderie and the brotherhood. So when I first got here, there wasn't a lot of offensive line dinners and things like that, and we've hung out a couple of times already. And so that's the key, is just being able to get to know each other outside of the building. And Coach Rabel's done a great job of allowing us to get up in team meetings and share our stories, and that allows us to come back together, because if you can know your brother off the field, you'll definitely love him on the field.
And I love my brother right over here, right in the other chair. That's Phil Perry. We have a great time together, but you knew that. Phil, when we look at this offensive line, there's a lot of optimism caused by the fact that, well, they seem to have staffed a lot of different positions that were weak spots last year. Left tackle, at least you have at left guard a reasonable facsimile of a guy who was a first-round pick. He's not a total disaster. Cole Strange at the top of the depth chart. That position is most definitely contended right now, though, as Strange moves in and out with the ones, along with
Jared Wilson.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
At center, Garrett Bradbury holding down that spot, along with mixing today at number 58.
Yeah, Jared Wilson. Yeah, he's filling in at both spots. He was today.
Getting
right
that
there
guy some rep with the ones.
Right there in front of Drake May. That's right.
I thought I was being really observant when I saw. Okay, be that as it may. Mike Onwenu is at right guard, and of course Morgan Moses is at right tackle. Interestingly, though, and they're not really supposed to be firing each other all over the place right now, but Bill Messina was observing the one-on-ones between offensive line and defensive line, and he saw a few guys just jettisoned, thrown into the stratosphere along the offensive line, including Garrett Bradbury. Does that bode poorly for the offensive line, or, boy, does it make... Whoa!
That was Yasir Durant on the wrong end of that one. That looks like Caden Wallace just getting hogtied. There's Garrett Bradbury right there, just getting bowled over by...
Ty Warren.
94. Guys, the numbers are still fresh for everybody. They're
bad.
tough.
That wasn't that bad. I mean, it's not that good either. I mean, hopefully that was a quick pass.
That might have been Josh Farmer.
Joshua Farms?
No, Jeremiah Farms, not to be confused with Josh Farmer, the rookie from Florida State.
See that as it may. I'm going to master this thing before long, because I stay on the starters usually, and that's why I didn't know that Jared Wilson was.
94 was Jaquelin Roy. Excuse me.
Oh, we should know that. I think it's Jaquelin.
I just assuming the starting center is not going to get bowled over by Jaquelin Roy.
So you were optimistic about this offensive line and the changes that they made, but there is competition at the interior, which is what we have talked about. The interior competition is going to be existent throughout.
There is, and I feel like we should highlight the fact that we are, in some ways, attacking this discussion about the defensive lineman beating up on the offensive lineman in a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek fashion.
Yeah, we are.
There's no pads. It's really difficult, in my opinion, to gauge the effectiveness of defensive or offensive line play when there's no shoulder pads involved. So now, that said, they're doing those one-on-one drills for a reason, and they're going at them incredibly physically, Tom. I mean, that video is shocking, not just because there are offensive linemen that are being tossed left and right, but because they're going to the ground. They're finishing with no pads. That's something that you rarely even see with the pads on. And so, if anything, maybe that observation from Moose in that video that we just saw right there is a little bit of an indication of what kind of camp this is going to be, which is physical and competitive. And Vrabel doesn't want guys getting hurt out there, but they're going to, I think, butt right up against that line.
The notion of competitiveness, both on that offensive line group and also in the wide receiver group, we're going to get to it with Kendrick Bourne. I was refreshed when we hear this Bourne sound that he spoke about not the, hey, we're all in there supporting each other and it's a great group and we're all trying to carve a roll and figure out where the chips are going to fall. Mm-hmm. So that has to exist. And when you look at the offensive line and the fact that they're starting to create a little bit of competition at the center spot, at the left guard spot, it's interesting. It's also interesting that we're not talking about Caden Wallace and Waden Robinson in this conversation.
Boy, what does it tell you that Caden Wallace is really repping primarily at guard? Number one, I guess the glass half full version of it, if you're a Patriots personnel executive, for instance, would be that, well, we have a need at left guard, and we're considering him to be one of our top choices there. Cole Strange is our top choice, but he could end up being a starter for us at left guard. The flip side is, Tom, well, we tried him at both tackle spots last year, didn't really love what we see, so we've completely moved him off of that spot to the point where now they really don't have much tackle depth, right? After Morgan Moses and Will Campbell, it's DeMontre Jacobs, who had a heck of a time at times last year. Unbelievable person and great for the room, but he is what he is. He's sort of a fringe NFL player. That's what he was last year when the Patriots took him on.
And Vidarian
Lowe, who was not out there today, and Marcus Bryant, who's a rookie 7th-round pick, big guy from Missouri. He actually was playing left tackle when Amron Membu was playing right tackle and transferred to Missouri from SMU. But should a rookie 7th-rounder be like, maybe your backup left tackle? When you drafted a guy in the 3rd round last year from Penn State to play left tackle for you?
Layden Robinson was the 4th?
Layden Robinson's with the 4th. Caden Wallace is the 3rd, yeah.
All right. So we're going to be watching that closely, especially when the Manders come in, to see that joint practice, see how they perform in 2 weeks' time when they are going against another defense that isn't their guys. So, although it's going to be pertinent to watch how they perform against their own guys, because there's some big units. And I did watch a few Will Campbell snaps today. And again, they're a little competitive in some of the 11-on-11 that we watched. And Campbell, I thought, did a pretty good job on Keon White. Not all of them. I want to watch every single one because we have to watch the ball down the field and see who made the catch. But I thought the Will Campbell looked okay today against Keon White. Not shutting him down, but certainly competitive and not a stiff. Moving on now for more bad news for Elliott Wolf. Let's take a look at the wide receiver pecking order, which I found really interesting. As you're watching through 2 days of practice, you have something that's established itself here. We're looking at right now Diggs at the top. Then I would say Kendrick Bourne. Then I would say Demario Douglas. Then probably Kyle Williams and Kayshon Boutte neck and neck. Then there's a gap, and the guys who are running most of the time with the 2s, although later in practice they'll get a rep or 2 with the 1s, are Baker and Efton Chisholm. So we have to throw an anchor out on Efton just because where he's starting on the pole position. And Jalen Polk's still not on the field yet. But here is Kendrick Bourne speaking about the competition at the wide receiver position in this offseason. And just how...
Kendrick, there was talk about sort of simplification of Josh's offense because, as we know, the language can be, it's long, and there was a lot of years combined in that playbook. Have you noticed that? Has it been simplified a little bit, streamlined maybe?
Honestly, no. I think it's pretty similar, like I was saying, Andrew. It's his system. He knows it. He's sticking to what he knows, and it's about us learning, like I said, what he wants us to do specifically. And Josh is very detailed, so fundamentals, details, and all those little things. Football's football, you know what I'm saying? So how can we play better with better technique than the guy in front of us? And I think that's what he emphasizes more, which, we struggle with in the past.
My mistake. We have multiple Kendrick Bourne quotes. Okay, that one was on Josh McDaniels, and the fact that it's starting to come clear that every guy we talk to is basically saying, yeah, it's kind of the same offense. Here is Kendrick Bourne talking about that wide receiver group and the competition, posed the question by me.
It's actually awesome. I think it's better than it's ever been from my experience being here, and I'm really enjoying it, man. You know, you love to have challenge. You love the environment of competition. It really brings the best out of you. So I think it's just every man against himself. You know what I'm saying? It ain't even against each other. It's a crazy, dynamic in a sense. But if we can have that mindset of all focusing on ourselves, you know, challenging ourselves, beating ourselves every day, I think the cards are going to play out how they play out. So I don't have any predictions. I'm just, doing what I'm supposed to do. And I think the room needs to have that mindset.
When you look at last year's team coming in at this point, it was KJ.
Mm-hmm.
You were hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Javon, Jalen Polk, Mario.
Yeah.
I remember I'm not saying it's a secret, but between the inexperience of that group and the lack of experience here, it's kind of a sea change between 2024 and 2025, that whole group.
Yeah. I think it's unique, and that's the challenge. You know what I'm saying? So as a group, we need to take that challenge, look at it that way. Like, it's not going to be given. You have to earn everything. And even for myself, you know what I'm saying? Seniority or whatever you want to call it, vet presence, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? I got to practice hard. I got to show up in preseason, whatever that looks like. Being with Braves, my first experience with Braves, so I'm learning how he operates, how he does things, and adjusting, adapting. I think that's what we need to do as a group. So not looking outside, but looking more internal.
See, I kind of like that. And Morgan Moses talked about the unity within the offensive line group. I think with this wide receiver group, I like the idea that guys are, at least Kendrick Bourne is articulating, you got to be a little cutthroat. If you're Javon Baker and you are in your second year and you are almost completely on ice and Efton Chisholm's about to beat you out, no sense trying to make Efton Chisholm's life easier.
No.
Same thing if you're Keyshawn Boutte and you're looking at Kyle Williams. Every man for himself. Figure it out, because that's going to raise the level of everybody's intensity, because it's going to prevent the coaching staff from having an excuse to say, that guy's not nearly as prepared as the other guy.
Right. And I think, the word you use, intensity, I think that starts with the guy who, to me, is clearly the top guy in the unit. It's Stephon Diggs, and that should come as no surprise. And so I like your snapshot when it comes to the pecking order for these receivers, and you're doing such a great job. I know we're only through 2 days, but I'm going to give you a lot of credit for doing a great job with your receiver watch, something that you're doing every day, and the people should be reading on NBCSportsBoston.com. Diggs, to me, is number one with a bullet. And then I do think there's some room for interpretation after that. I would actually put Pop Douglas second right now, because Diggs is really the only receiver whose reps are only coming with Drake May. Everybody else is getting some mix in with Josh Dobbs.
Sure.
I just look at Pop Douglas as a guy who, especially in a practice like today's, Tom, where the focus was so clearly on that short to intermediate passing game. We actually heard from Ramondre Stevenson later. He told reporters this was a first down day, and because it's no pads, it should be inferred this is a first down passing day, right? So what are you doing 1st and 10 when you're throwing the football? You're just trying to stay ahead of the change. You're trying to stay on schedule. So if there's a 4-yard opening there, go ahead and take it. Can't go broke taking a profit, right, Tom?
Amen to that.
You can't do it. So he was targeted a great deal today. Pop Douglas was. Actually, 12 of Drake May's 15 competitive throws today. Get this. 12 of 15 were targeted to either running backs, tight ends, or Pop Douglas. So this was not a big day for wide receivers, period. And it certainly wasn't a big day for down the field passing, which I think speaks to some of that stuff we heard from Kendrick Bourne about the Josh McDaniels offense. Even if this was focused on a specific situation, first down passing, I think Josh McDaniels has always liked offenses that try not to go broke by taking profits. That was the Tom Brady way for a long, long time, and it evolved depending on who he had to throw to. But I think Josh McDaniels is going to try to hammer that into Drake May. Look at all these short throws that are open to you, that are allowing us to move the chains and efficiently move down the field. You can do this. Guy who had 10 interceptions in basically 10 games last year. Guy who was near the bottom of the league in interception rate and turnover-worthy play rate, according to PFF. So today was an interesting day in that regard for me, and it meant a lot of targets for Pop Douglas, who I would put at number 2, and then the rest of the list is pretty much the same today. To me, Kyle Williams, Keyshawn Boutte, Kendrick Bourne, and then there's a gap, and I would put Chisholm. Then there's another gap, and I would put Polk. Then there's maybe 3 or 4 more gaps, and I would put Javon Baker.
So that's Elliott. But what's interesting is through 2 days of ramp-up practices with no contact, no pass rush. Well, there's contact. No pass rush. Drake May has looked on time and accurate as hell, which if Josh McDaniels is going to be able to tap something that was not tapped necessarily at North Carolina in terms of the accuracy and the underneath throwing. Look, we know he's deadly down the right sideline. He can throw from platform. He can make a lot of different outstanding throws. But I think it'd be great if that stuff sets up later on. Go ahead. Hit irons off the tee, and then we know you can hit the driver. Let's just hit irons off the tee for a while, okay? Don't want to lose. You can't win the tournament on Friday, but you sure can lose it.
I love that analogy. I think a lot of our listeners, our viewers can relate to that analogy. It makes a lot of sense. Yes, there'll be times where we need you to unleash that cannon that is attached to your right shoulder there, and there are going to be times that we need you to run around and extend plays and maybe pick up yardage with your legs. We just want you to know, and we want you to see, because you might understand, especially as a young player, but I know we both think he's a smart guy. He probably knows, Tom, there are times where I should play it a little safer. But when you're in the moment, unless you have so many reps where it becomes muscle memory and it just becomes, a reaction more than even a read, I think it could be hard for a guy like him who his whole life has been a superstar and has been wowing people because of his, outstanding physical traits. I think it can be hard to sort of break those habits where you want to do all those fun, crazy things that people love you for.
Right.
It's the reason why he was taken as a top 3 pick. It wasn't just because he could throw an accurate 5-yard check down. So I think it's going to take some training and practices like today's to get him to really, in the moment when these games matter, understand it and execute it the way Josh McDaniels is hoping for.
Plus, it's going to become irresistible if the offense is orchestrated or drawn up correctly in a way that takes advantage of these different wide receivers who are talking about their skill sets. It's going to be irresistible to say, he's wide open. He's 6 yards away from me. I mean, I could stand here like a donkey and just survey and try and make, a hero pass, but he's right there. Do I want to make?
Are you saying because there's not that many guys that are going to be open far down the field?
No, I'm saying that within the 20-yard stretch underneath, Josh is so good at orchestrating an offense that you're going to have some idiot just running around going.
I thought, and these two things I think work hand in hand. They also don't have many deep threats. So it's not like, well, how could I pass up throwing to, Mac Hollins 20 yards down the field 10 times a game? It's like, well, it's probably just not going to be there
Brady
for you.
could throw to Matt Slater, and he did in the 2013 AFC Championship game because Matt was out there, and that was a pick. All right.
They're going to need that stuff. They are going to need that stuff. It's not going to be who they are. And also, this is part of it too, how long is the offensive line really going to be able to protect him?
Fair.
So how often are you going to have 3, maybe more seconds to pump that ball down the field on a regular basis? It's probably going to have to be to help protect your protectors. Get it out quickly.
Meanwhile, let's roll that. Can we roll that? Might as well. Roll that sound again on Kendrick Bourne, if you could, Ethan. Roll that sound again on Kendrick Bourne talking about Josh McDaniels' offense, because it's coming clear right now, Ethan, that we're sitting out here talking about all the bells and whistles we're going to see, and maybe there will be some wrinkles that Josh McDaniels unveils. But between Hunter Henry and Kendrick Bourne, we just keep hearing guys say, it's the same thing.
Kendrick, there was talk about sort of simplification of Josh's offense because, as we know, the language can be it's long, and there was a lot of years combining that playbook. Have you noticed that? Has it been simplified a little bit, streamlined maybe?
Honestly, no. I think it's pretty similar. Like I was saying, Andrew, it's his system. He knows it. He's sticking to what he knows, and it's about us learning, like I said, what he wants us to do specifically. And Josh is very detailed, so fundamentals, details, and all those little things. Football's football, you know what I'm saying? So how can we play better with better technique than the guy in front of us? And I think that's what he emphasizes more, which, we struggle with in the past.
All right, Phil, we hear that conversation with Kendrick Bourne talking about it's the same. It's the same offense. It's all the same stuff that we've been doing. Does that make the sides of your mouth turn down a little bit because you're disappointed you're not going to see this just exotic offense that Josh McDaniels is unveiling?
Well, it's just interesting to me because we did hear from him and from others that, during this sabbatical essentially that he had away from football last year or away from a coaching gig in football, he was able to sort of sample from these other places and kind of just get a good idea of, where the game was going and what other coaches were thinking about in terms of attacking modern day defenses. And just because what we've seen looks a lot like what we have seen in the past from Josh McDaniels, it doesn't mean he hasn't learned new things and that we won't learn new things about Josh McDaniels' offense moving forward. But it is a little funny to me.
Sounds like 85% of the thing is basically the same.
It feels the same. And we're seeing a lot of two backs. There's a fullback on the field and Brock Lampy. We're seeing a lot of two tight ends, even though Austin Hooper's not even available. So it's Hunter Henry out there with somebody named Jack Westover that I'm sure 75%, 95%, who knows, of our audience has never heard of before. But that's just what Josh McDaniels wants to do. He's going to be under center, I think, quite a bit. He's going to ask the quarterback to do a lot. There was one hiccup today in terms of the quarterback-center exchange, but for the most part, it's been very efficient and in rhythm. Jared Wilson snapped a football to Drake May, and the thing ended up on the ground. Hard to know if May ever really had the ball or if he just lost it after he got the ball. So I don't know who to pin the blame on there. But outside of that one hiccup, it was very smooth, but it was sort of a staccato type of attack. And that's what we've associated with Josh McDaniels for a long time. There's even a moment, Tom. There's a moment in the Forged in Foxborough second episode. I don't know if you saw this.
Not yet.
Where Josh McDaniels and other offensive coaches and Mike Vrabel are in a meeting together. Clearly, it looks like after a practice during the spring, so OTAs or minicamp. And he's saying essentially, it sounds like he's criticizing a quarterback. Which quarterback, we don't know. But he's saying, we're passing up guys to throw into triple coverage. I just don't get it. To me, it's about finding the option that's going to allow you to move the ball and just take it. And I think that's going to be one of the overarching themes to this season is how well Drake May adapts that kind of mindset because Josh McDaniels is so constantly in his ear.
Yeah.
Can he do it? Or is it just in his nature to be that sort of wild stallion that, is always going to be that guy?
He should, well, and you're just posing a rhetorical question. My guess is if I answer it, he's smart enough to understand that on the other side of this exists a $300 million contract and probably the opportunity to have great success in your profession.
Does it, though? Because aren't the guys that are getting paid Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and the guys that make the crazy play? Like the crazy throw, the throw down the field, the throw that gets everybody excited. If Josh McDaniels is telling them just keep it within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage 85% of the time, does that get you paid?
Yeah, it's a good point because Brady was the greatest of all time, but he never got paid that much because he was a show pony, not a racehorse. All right. That joke. But I have to get off because I have WEEI in a couple minutes at 3:30, and I do want to hit Phil's Maywatch.
Well, the Maywatch to me is 14 completions on 15 competitive throws, but now you have the context for those throws. A lot of short throws. So before you go crazy looking at the completion percentage over the course of the first two practices for the Patriots, just know, like, Tom Curran could have made 95% of the throws on the field today. So the Maywatch is really more about style today on day two than it is effectiveness or efficiency or productivity. The style with which he played today was old school Brady, just in terms of the distance of the throws. And Tom, he was accurate. There was, I remember the scouting reports on Drake May coming out of North Carolina, and it was just inconsistent. And some of those short throws,
Merrill Hodge said he was going to get everybody fired. The whole league was going to get fired.
And on some of those shorter throws, he would spray them. You just have a miss that just was, how did that happen? Like, what was that?
Yep.
You're not seeing those through 2 days of practice. I think that's really encouraging.
Who's the star of the day? Who will it be?
Star of the day for me was Pop Douglas. Pop Douglas caught every target thrown his way. He had the catch of the day, a leaping, twisting, fully extended grab along the left sideline from Josh Dobbs.
I'm doing this because I couldn't hear John. I don't want the camera on me. What'd you say, John?
Josh Dobbs made a
John,
number.
What'd you say? You muttered something.
Okay, we'll just let these two iron this out.
What'd you say,
Crusher.
John?
Tom having an issue.
Phil,
Tom's under the gun.
What'd you say, John?
We can hear you. Everyone can hear you. Just so you know that. Okay.
He won't say it now.
Okay. Well, that's great. Pop Douglas is your star of the day. Catch of the day. Caught a number of different targets from a number of different quarterbacks. Josh Dobbs, I do just want to point out, because it was not a great day for Josh Dobbs yesterday, Better day for Josh
Better day
Dobbs
for
today.
Josh Dobbs.
Accurate throw deep down the field to Javon Baker. It just goes right through the breadbasket. Great throw to Pop Douglas, which was completed. I thought even Ben Wooldridge had a nice day today. The third-string quarterback, the undrafted guy.
Kyle Williams had a drop.
Kyle Williams also had a drop right through his hands on a little hitch about 8 yards from the line of scrimmage. Was an issue for him in college, so something to just keep an eye on his
Keep your eyes on.
track progress.
He's 50-50 in days without drops and days with drops. First day was good. Tomorrow's going to be, technical term, hot as balls. So if you're heading down there, make sure you bring a small parasol, perhaps, a small fan or mister, okay? And understand you might want to have a towel to sit on those smoking hot bleachers. We will be down there, though, and we will provide you once again in the afternoon with another Patriots Talk podcast right here on the YouTube Lives. So for Phil, for Tom, for Skull Crusher, for Ethan, for the entire Patriots football community, see you tomorrow.